Hello, fellow supermoms, and welcome to a new year, 2023. And this is the first podcast of the year. And this podcast, I want to talk about how to have an awesome start of the year, or maybe month, day, evening, and how I do that. I give you some tricks and tips that I learned over the years, and especially after my burnout a couple of years ago, but also things I learned in therapy and with cognitive behavioral therapy after I got my ADHD diagnosis, but also what my body learned taught me getting into peri-menopause and getting COVID, and after that long COVID because of it. So I kind of was unlucky, but in most cases it was kind of my body shutting me down because I kept going and going and going. Because ADHD or not, as a special needs mom, I think we're constantly thinking about other people's needs or what we should do, what should be the best option, and for our kids, all the therapy options and all the trainings, and even despite blah 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 blah, they should only get A's because that's the only path to true happiness. And of course, being a grade A student is not, well, for most of people, not the only path to, or the path to happiness. So this winter, I love the time between Christmas and New Year's Eve. I get in, it's my hibernation mode. I'm like a bear, I crawl back into my cave, well, in this case my house, and really limit the amount of social gatherings, even with family. We already set a rule years and years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, I think even before the kids were born. My husband being in the military, he's away a lot, so he was like, I would like to have one of those special holidays to be, just be together as a family. Just us, or just us and now the kids. And it helped already slow down. But then, between Christmas and New Year's Eve, a lot of people have a few days off and try to, meet up as much as possible. And Wonder Boy, from an early age on, having 2 weeks off during Christmas, the first week he really needed to wind down. Process all the emotions, and me having, this year was health-wise quite hard for me. And of course a lot of stuff going on for the kids as well. Yes, they get older, but the worries and the guidance, even if they're not at home, don't stop. And with Wonder Boy being in college and facing some real challenges, trying to get an internship, because Wonder Boy is really open about being autistic. And for some reason, even the internship counselor at school is looking for internships and keeps saying, oh, but he really needs a lot of structure and guidance and help. He's, and people think, oh, we really need to hold his hand. No, he just needs structure. And I think most of us thrive with structure. You don't need to be autistic to thrive with structure. I think really most people thrive with a good structure. So he was and is battling all the prejudice there is, all the judgments. People think, oh, because he's autistic, he can't be social. And he's like, I really can. I talk a lot. I'm really good with people. For some reason, it's hard. Anyway, so that first week between Christmas and New Year's Eve is really my hibernation mode. And I discovered a great podcast It's from a really lovely writer, Beth Campton, and she has this podcast called Calm Christmas or Calm Christmas Days. I can't come up with it at the moment, and it's really about slowing down. And just her voice and her journal exercises help me to slow down. And in that week, I don't feel any guilt at all, and I never really felt guilt. And nowadays, what makes a difference is that I express, I really need this time for myself. So sorry, I won't meet up. We can do that then and then, but the last week of December and the first 2 weeks of January, I need time. And it really helps. And yes, sometimes I really have to repeat this over and over again. But yeah, it's what's most important to me and in my family. And my family thrives if I'm feeling great as well. So, and the funny thing that happened was that, end of December, but especially January 2nd, you open social media and everybody's about New Year's resolutions for your business, for your health, for, school, for life goals and life happiness. And you should really blah, 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 do this and that. And some of them have this tone that makes you feel like, come January 4th, you already feel guilty and fat and a failure because so already January 4th and you already already ate chocolate when you said you were quitting sugar on January 1st. And all those posts make you feel like if you don't follow them and don't do this certain thing, well, of course you're not happy and of course you can't, find time for you. And so this year I think I almost disappeared from social media on that way and unfollowed a lot of people, including business friends that, had a more aggressive tone of, have this because this will save you, blah, 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 blah. Because it just made me, I don't know, it can be really helpful, but it just made me feel like I wanted to crawl back into my cave. And it's stupid, of course, that you feel guilty because I think most of the time, if if I would ask friends and family what I really should do, everybody would be like, rest, don't do anything, book a holiday just for you, relax. And for some reason, all those requests creep in, all those demands, and being an, I like to help people, but I also have the helper syndrome, I would call it, that the moment somebody says I need help, you drop everything, run towards them, and forget about your own needs. So around Christmas, this is about me, and the first week of the new year, kind of the same. I slowly woken up, but still, my kids had a few days off. My husband was at home. I had an unexpected trip with my son to Denmark. So I still said, no, we can't meet. And then a funny thing happened. The second week of January started, so school started again. My husband went back to work. And then, of course, the moment schools open again, people go back to work. You have all these school arrangements and school appointments. Hospital appointments have to be scheduled in again. Wonder Boy needed a lot of support because a few things were not going well. So he would come home and he just needed an hour to be with me and just talk and be reassured. And I had client work starting up again. And one of the best things, if you're, if you work behind a computer like me, or you have your own business. Beforehand, if I had an out of office on, if I would be back on Monday, I would say, I'm back on Monday. Nowadays, after a holiday, I wait for 2 days. So I will be back on Monday in my office, or I have my own business now, so I open up my own business again, so to speak. But my out of office says that I will be back on Wednesday. Why? So those first 2 days I can slowly start up, schedule the first things. I have a few retainer clients, and those come first. They've been clients for years, for blogs and social media posts. So they come first, and I schedule their stuff. But I give myself a few days to catch up on email and start planning and scheduling things. So I don't start until like Wednesday, and it really helps me, to have a nice slow start instead of holidays are over, Monday morning, 7 o'clock, the alarm goes off and you're immediately in stress, overwhelm. Oh my gosh, my to-do list is out of control. And what also helps me, so first thing, I tell people I'm not available. And I'm not, saying, oh, I'm sorry, but I really, I'm not available. I don't have to say sorry that I'm not available during the holidays. And I will say, when I'm back again. And the second thing is, I give myself some time to start up. And also, if it takes a little bit longer, that's totally fine. Last week, school started again. Supergirl started her internship. And she's staying on post because she has a military internship. So suddenly, she's not at home during the week. And I love it, to be honest. I can remember what I thought when I was that age and all the adventures. And yes, it's scary, but I hope she enjoys it as well. And that her body will allow her to enjoy it. But Wonder Boy had a hard time, had a few big things coming up. One thing failed, difficult talks with the school. But I also found out, I came back on the Saturday prior from that surprise visit to Denmark with my son, where we visit a toy factory, the headquarters of a toy factory he's a huge fan of, called Plus Plus. And they don't ship to the Netherlands yet. And I made it possible that we could visit the headquarters. And they gave me a tour. And it was fantastic. I will, make a post or maybe do an special episode about this toy or the ultimate fidget toys. Because, so much fun and it was brilliant. But I'm also still recovering from long COVID. So my ADHD kind of pulled me through that 2,000 kilometer trip in 3 days. And I had all the energy and we were focused. But when I came home, my body was like, hello, I need to recover for 4 days. So, and because my schedule is not so strict anymore, I can, play with it. So most important things first, and then, have some flexibility. So not a jam-packed to-do list every day where I have everything planned from the hour to the hour, because it's impossible. And then around, I like to set goals. I like to set New Year's resolutions. But thankfully, I'm also a little bit wiser. And maybe older, maybe that helps. If you've been through a lot of health shit and with the kids and for myself, you set more realistic goals or things that, what really, really, truly matter. And when I was younger and when the kids were younger, I also, had those high goals for this year. I'm going to read with the kids every day. for so long because it will help them do all kinds of things. In the meantime, there's this message going off. I forgot to turn off my sound. And, it was all the outer expectations that kind of decided what my goals were going to be. Or even worse, the goals for my kids. And I should, as a parent, you can help your kids set goals. But you should never be the one that sets the goal for your kids. Because that's just a disaster waiting to happen. Because it should be their goal, they should see the benefit of whatever goal you're setting. It should come from what they want and need. But that's for another podcast, and I will see if I can do maybe a special podcast about goal setting with your kids. Because yes, it can be done. But there are some tips and tricks. One of them, that is the same for us, shutting off the outside noise, the outer expectations from teachers, from parents. Hello, mom. The guilt you feel. Oh, I should do, and because it's all those outer, all that clutter, all that outside noise, or maybe screaming. The influence, the parent influencers that with the perfect pictures, the health coaches that look trimmed, but have no kids, travel all over the world, and of course, I would love it if my kids would just breeze to school, getting straight A's, have no worries in the world. I would be lying if I said, I wouldn't want my kids to have it easy. I would be lying if I said, I think I would be lying if I said I wouldn't want to be a millionaire. I think it would be fucking amazing, I see it for me that I can buy the car or whatever car I want, and I can go on a girls trip whenever I want and not worry about the money or saving money for it. But those influencers with the perfect pictures and the perfect bodies and the $1 million lifestyle. Maybe, I just turned 47 last week. I think, all the health crap we had makes you also want to realize what truly matters. My kids were never grade A students. Yeah, wonder boy. History, math, everything. But, him being autistic and ADHD, the language barrier was huge. And it's still a big struggle. And I had all these teachers. But even parents tell me, oh, you should just do this, this, and this. And if you're failing, that's because. So the guilt was immense. The pressure was immense. Wonder Boy would get more and more miserable. I felt like a complete failure all the time. So if you set goals for this year, and for now, for this podcast, let's stick to your own goals. Shut off the outside noise. If you follow a few people on Instagram, if you see their posts, there's a really good, thing that can help you clear the clutter in who you should follow and who's good for your soul and who isn't. If you see a post and you immediately feel tired and overwhelmed, just unfriend them or stop seeing their posts. If you see a post and it might be intimidating, or scary, yet challenging, in a good way, those are the people that you might want to follow. And I think a brilliant, if not the only person you should follow along setting, if you like to set goals, and maybe want to do this now or next year or next week, whenever, is Mel Robbins. She just started a podcast, 2022. I can't even remember when. I think late 2022. And before that, I kind of knew her, not that much. I had a book, and now has this podcast. And this January is all about goal setting and realistic goal setting, but in such a nice way. And you hear her talk, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, yes, Mel, that's me." But she helps you clear out the bullshit and the noise that's not yours, and help you set goals that truly, truly matter. For me this year, it's really about getting my health back. Of course, I'm still in peri-menopause. That will never change. Yes, I'm having, long COVID. So I'm recovering from that. But a few things are really important for me that can help me, with the peri-menopause and with the long COVID. And following the specialists. And I'm a huge believer in, and thankfully trained in reading science studies. And it motivates me, it helps me clear the clutter. But, I will see if I can post a link to her podcast. But because I really, if you struggle and you already, started the new year, you already feel like shit because you started eating sugar 4 hours into the new year while you said you wouldn't. Or, you said, "Oh, this year I won't drink alcohol." You don't know why, but it just seems healthy. But yeah, New Year's Eve, the clock strikes. The first thing you do is drink champagne. So there goes your goal, not drinking. But she makes it fun, and she's a real woman. Not this fancy, perfect influencer with a perfect life and no setbacks. And I heard her talk about, she having to deal with anxiety still. Being one of the biggest positive mindset gurus, I would say. And still deals with anxiety. And I have that as well, I talk a lot about self-care as a special needs mom. That doesn't mean that I sometimes, have to step myself out of it. Because the moment one boy comes home and he's completely stressed and overwhelmed, I drop everything. Period. Totally normal. If I would not be in the house, no, of course not. But if I'm here and if I see his stress, I drop everything. Yes, even when I'm at that moment, because I decided I'm going to read a book every day because that's good for my I like reading. So one of the things is reading more. And not just medical shit or science shit, but also just, cowboy romance novels, things like that. Yes, that's in my me time. But if he comes home when I just set a timer for, an hour of rest and me time, but my kid comes home and is stressed, of course I will drop everything. So, yes, I have clear goals and I set boundaries and I calculate I plan in my me time, but it's flexible. So I will be there for my kid. And I think, if you listen to Mel Robbins, it's like having your own therapist. I can't describe it in any other way. And, I started, I had cognitive behavioral therapy last year after my ADHD diagnosis, and really practical therapy. But I also started trauma therapy last year. Really intense. Really hard. And God, did I resist it because I really didn't want to relive any trauma. But it's like this veil lifted off of me. And it's really because one of the counselors of the ADHD treatment center said, well, aren't you allowed, shouldn't you allow yourself to, have it better, feel better again on this specific subject? And I went like, well, yes, okay, that means I have to go through the bloody shit. But anyhow, she is so relatable. She's a mom. sets high standards, talks about her anxiety. And I never thought I really had anxiety issues until I learned more about ADHD, and I heard her talk about it in the podcast, and I went like, oh shit, I do have some anxiety issues. And one of them being, I'm really an extrovert, and I love, crazy adventures like me and Wonder Boy going off to Denmark in a bleep notice, and doing crazy trips like that. Not planned at all, last minute things. But on the other hand, it takes me forever to get out of that front door. The moment I'm out the front door, I'm great. But before I open the door, I can come up with a million reasons why I should stay at home and do this or that, and why it wouldn't be better. While I know now by experience that getting out really is good for my soul, and I really need to, because I work from home. My husband is away a lot, and my kids when they were younger, and during long COVID, or not long COVID, I've got long COVID, but during, we were all in our house during the COVID years. I think that one of the things that led to my burnout was that I didn't have an escape anymore. So I know I need to get out of that house. And I love it once I'm out. I love going to Amsterdam. And I love having a coffee in the city or having a lunch. I hardly do it, however, because I always feel guilty because, now I'm having lunch in the city, but I could do blah, 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 blah. So there's also an excuse. So this was going to be a short episode. I can't do short episodes. But I hope it helps you. If you're having a hard time getting out of hibernation mode, don't be. This is, January 16th. And this is the first day I'm kind of wakening up. Yes, last week I started with started doing work for my clients again. But other than that, I was still tired and overwhelmed, and I had to message, several people for school and super cool specialists that had questions, and it just made me want to crawl back into my cave. And beforehand, the guilt would have taken over, and I would have done, reaching out, meeting all these people, catching up with friends again. And now I know, but I learned through all the shitty stuff I went through. And thanks to really my body that just put me down, put me back, saying, slow down, lady. In the end, it's not what other people want. It's what I need and my family needs. But before I meet my family needs, need to take care of me as well. Until, when the boy comes in and really needs my help, of course I drop everything. But, really taking the time to rest, having flexibility in my agenda during the week helps me to, take those moments when I have to drop something because I have to help my kids or do something else, or rest more, because I had a few very active days, and then I'm like, oh, I don't have long COVID anymore, yeah, I can do everything. And then my body's like, wait a moment. It throws me back. And yes, that stinks sometimes, but it does remind me, okay, what is most important? That I recover, and that I don't get back into that really dark place 3 years ago when I had my burnout and I could hardly get out of the couch, and I didn't see joy in anything anymore. And your kids don't want that. What do you think your kids and your husband or partner want to see? or your parents or your employee are really tired, to the bone, always, depressed looking partner or kid or employee? Or do you think they want somebody that looks happy and is energized? Well, to do that, yes, your work can give you energy, but, also reading a cowboy romance novel before you go to bed. Or, after you had the morning rush hour with your kids, and for me it's getting the kids out of the door and walking the dog and loading the putting laundry in the washing machine. Because of long COVID now, at 9:30, I'm like, I really need a break. So I do that. Because if I don't, by the time it's noon, I'm dead on my feet and not able to produce anything useful anymore. And then my partner comes home, and then I'm like, how was your day? And my kids, oh, Mom, do you want to play? No, they don't really want to play anymore, but yeah, maybe Dungeons and Dragons. Or, a fun game. But, Mom, can we do this? And my answer is, Mommy's now too tired. And it's totally understandable at the end of the day. On the other hand, do you really want to feel knackered all the time? And only, see the weekend as the moment you kind of get life back in. You're allowed and you should feel great. You should allow yourself to feel great during the week as well. And if you have really young kids, it will get better. Then you just need a lot of coffee to get through the first few years. But also when your kids are really, it's really not going well with your kids. I just had a short bleep with my camera. I hope that went well. That costs a lot of energy, of course. But, if you want to keep smiling and enjoy life, and you should be able to enjoy life. And yes, easier said than done if it's not going well with your kids. But doing those tiny things during the day and setting goals that truly matter for you, work-wise, health-wise, family-wise, can really help. So, if you still want to, crawl back into your cave and go into hibernation mode, why not? If you're like, for me, winter is all about slowing down, and I will wake up in spring, and then be active in all kinds of, why not? If that works for you, why not? But be sure to, have little happy things that makes it durable, the winter, if you're not a winter person. And make it clear to the outside world, when you are available and when you're not available. No, you don't have to give an excuse why you are or why you aren't. You don't. Just tell them, because the moment you come up with an excuse, they will try to argue with it. So just say yes, no, period. And go back to the basics of what you truly need, maybe what your kids truly need. So I would, if you need some help slowing down, like I said, Beth Campton, she wrote a whole series of books. Wabi Sabi is one of her most popular books, but also The Way of the Fearless Writer, if you like to write. But if you really need help slowing down, she has a book called Calm Christmas and a Happy New Year. And it's all about that, she calls it the hush period between Christmas and New Year. But those journal exercises she has in the book, you can use them all through the year to slow down and go over things and write about what's truly important, and can help you reflect. And if you really look for an inspiring person that's honest and a true woman, and not a perfect influencer with a perfect happy life, but really helps you to get to the core of you and cut the crap, really cut the outside clutter and outside noise and out expectations crap. Listen to Mel Robbins' podcast. I can't highly recommend her enough, because she really feels like my she has 2 podcast episodes a week, and it feels like 2 extra therapy sessions a week. It's that good, and I don't mean it in a heavy way. It makes your head lighter, and if you're having troubles with clouds in your head, it really blows away the clouds in your head and let in sunshine. So this is my really short, not so short, long podcast, the first one of 2023. If you have a question or subject you would like me to talk about in this podcast, let me know. Shoot me a message, or find me on Facebook or on Instagram. On Instagram, you can find the Special Needs Supermom podcast. On Facebook as well. If you are looking for a private group for just special needs moms, where you can ask questions and share stories, cry, laugh, share something great, share something that sucks and you want a tip on it, join the Special Needs Supermoms Facebook group. It's a private group, not even that big at the moment. I think like 140 people, maybe. It's still in startup, so sometimes I have a question, sometimes I turn up live, sometimes we have a virtual coffee, just to chat and share experiences. And you're free to join if you're a special needs mom, because I'm sorry, dads, if you're listening too, but this is just for special needs moms at the moment, this Facebook group. And if you like this podcast, please review it and share it, because especially those reviews help other special needs moms find this podcast as well. That was it. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day or evening whenever you're listening to this, and I see or you hear me next time. Bye.